You're listening to The Angry Designer, where we cut through the industry bull to help frustrated graphic designers survive and thrive.
Welcome back to part 2 of our conversation with James Martin. So in case you've been living under a rock, this is part 2. If you didn't catch part 1, I'd highly recommend you go and listen to that first, because there was some pretty deep shit that we went through on there. We had a couple good laughs. We really set the stage of who James is and what he's gone through. This episode is just going to be a lot of fun. We're going to be talking more about his history. We're going to talk about more about current life, current problems that we're dealing with, how to manage and juggle everything that our industry brings us, and someone like him and his status, his celebrity status online, and just in general, a lot of wowness. And of course, we're going to have 1 or 2 laughs along the way. So please, by all means, grab a drink, whether it's bourbon, whether it's whiskey, maybe even if it's just a glass of milk. I don't really care. And sit back and enjoy this part 2 awesome episode of our conversation with James Martin. It's the nurturing of the relationship and honing it and helping, direct in the future. That's where the real value comes for the client.
Yeah.
Because ultimately you can give them the logo. It doesn't mean they're going to know what to do with it.
Right? Yeah, it's exactly that. And I think you're spot on with. I think a logo is only as powerful as the system that's created for it to work. John, in that essence. So, it's the kind of idea.
Absolutely.
That, like you say, if I gave my client a vector file of just the logo, what are they going to do with it? How does it work on social media? How does it work on their website?
Right.
How do they build it into their presentation decks? How do they use it on their billboards? This is, like you say, this kind of, and I've seen, it's funny because you have to stop yourself from constantly being that twat who's always correcting people. But, when you hear these, like, well, the BP logo was 250,000 or 210,000, whatever it was. It's like, no, it fucking wasn't, you idiots. Yeah. It wasn't. It was everything that they built out around
everything.
And I think this is, as much as you say, it's not, I don't think it's, I think it's this conception that, it's not that everybody wants to be an expert, but I think it's very clear when people do talk that they're not sometimes, or they've read it somewhere, or they've heard it somewhere, then they share it as themselves and all the rest of it. I think it's really important because there's the people that do understand the system and how that works. Everybody, I would say, who has any knowledge of design, when they hear a logo for 210,000, they're kind of giggling to themselves, going, "Come on, you can't really think it was just a logo that was given to them. Come on, how can you actually think that?" But some people do. Do you know what I mean? And I think this is.
I know.
I think
they
this
eat
is
that shit up.
Yeah, this is the slight problem with the social media bubble. Is the Chinese whispers kind of nature of it? How somebody can say something, then it kind of goes down the line, and then suddenly it's fact or fiction, and it's kind of or fact,
so true.
And I think this is a bit of a problem because there's people who are educating people on design who have only been in design for a couple of years, or some of them even 6 months, and they're sharing educational. There you go. That's a better word. Yeah. Educational content.
There you go.
Yeah, educational
kind
content.
Kind of like educative.
I actually prefer educative. Yeah, that's much easier to say too.
Sometimes the English language just doesn't have a word to encompass what we want to say, so you make it up.
I've done it exactly. Yeah, but I think that's one of the biggest problems. Is it's very tough for people to know what's right and what's wrong and who to follow, because this is what numbers do. So if I know people with hundreds of thousands of followers who don't have a fucking clue what they're talking about. I know people who aren't even on social media who have thriving design agencies working for the best brands on the planet. Do you know what I mean? But the problem is somebody goes, you've got 10,000, you've got 20,000, you've got 30,000. You must know what you're talking about, which is the problem. Because a lot of these people don't know.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's my.
Yeah. Right.
I'll finish there. That's what I'll do.
No.
That's great.
Well, you know what? Going back to this. Okay, so you've built up this brand for yourself. You have a look and feel, right? And how much of your work stays within this look, this feel, this brand versus branching out to stuff that works for a spa versus, like, again, everything I've seen you created usually has some pretty good edge to it. It has a distinctive look. That's that's James Martin's work.
Yeah.
So how much of your additional work follows that?
Well, the beautiful thing is, I mean, I've always been a big believer in you got to share the work you want to get. Like in the early stages of my career, there was a lot of work that I did that it was not that I wasn't proud of it just wasn't particularly me, but it was about survival, it was about paying the bills, probably listening to the client too much. Whereas now, people come to me for the work that I create. They come to me to be different.
Yeah.
They come to me to break the rules, to not conform. So a lot of the work I get to do now is with people who want me to push the boundaries, and they're paying me for how I think. Ultimately, like anybody,
right.
Well, not anybody, but there's a lot of people on this planet who can design a logo. There's only one person who can design a logo like me, or think like me, which is probably what I should say.
Right.
So that is and this is, I think, is a really important conversation when it comes like how. When people talk about pricing yourself and like self-worth and all the rest of it, I never think a client's coming to me for a logo, like my output. They're coming to me for my input, which is how I think. So that is what I price. I price my ideas, my ability to create ideas rather than the final file that I give to them. So like I said, the beauty of it now is that I now get to do a lot of the work that I want to do. Like people actively want me to push the boundaries and want to be different within their space. I still do some much safer work because ultimately my job is to execute a brief. So whether that brief is clean, minimal, sophisticated, I'll smash it. If it's crazy, rebellious, edgy, I'll smash it. And that's why I don't niche myself within a particular industry, because I think the ability to be able to execute a brief is my superpower, rather than being really good at a certain style of logo, or being really good at just typography, or being really good at just creating mascots. Like I try to do a little bit of everything because it allows me to be better at a much broader kind of spectrum. So a brief will come to me, I'll analyze it. I've obviously do have a style, but sometimes that style isn't right for that particular client who has paid me. So I will then think, how can I, so what else do I do? It's all of, I like to think clever, think clever. That doesn't sound very clever, does it? It's all about like the attention.
Very clever.
Yeah, the attention to detail. Like how can I, how can my brain create something made by James, but done in a slightly different style or a slightly cleaner execution, or maybe the logo has to be super clean, and then the assets I have a lot more fun with, the system I have a lot more fun with, but the logo itself is more like a facilitator for those conversations to happen. So I think, it's impossible. I wouldn't say it's impossible, but definitely more so now than ever, I'm getting people that just go, I want something like made by James. I want something a little bit rebellious. Obviously, it needs to work. It needs to work in application. It needs to have all the things like longevity, versatility. It needs to work. That's the job. That's the execution, the objective.
So you know what? Unknowingly, you have niched. Because you've now, granted, you maybe haven't niched in an industry per se, but you have built such a brand, such a following, such a look and feel.
My
that the
thinking's
people that are coming to you are coming. Exactly. They're coming for your look, your way of thinking. Granted, the execution they might assume will be this direction, but you might deliver something else, but it still revolves around you. So in fact, you still have niched yourself. It's just in a different way. You've niched around a brand versus your brand. Versus an industry, you've had that the luck, the foresight to be able to build this, and then in fact they have come.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I mean,
it's a different way of thinking, but yeah.
Yeah, I think it's probably never. It's probably slightly intentional, but I mean, I'll tell you, like I think success leaves clues ultimately. So
Yeah.
I grew up.
That's brilliant.
I grew up watching, like, when I started Baby Giant, I watched, he's now a really good friend of mine, Dan Jansen, Lincoln Design Co. I used to watch them all the time, and I would be like, what are they doing? Like, that's like how I see Baby Giant being in, if they're anything like that in my life, if I'm anything like that in my lifetime, that's going to be cool. So I would watch them all the time, and it wouldn't be to copy, it'd just be to see what they were doing. And they spent
inspired.
And you know what they did? One of the biggest things I took away from them was the amount of time they spent building their own brand, and how much effort they put into their personal branding. Everything, all their events,
I know,
like retreats they did, their kind of personal brands, all the rest of it. They put so much effort into it. I think the problem that happens is a lot of creatives, or especially brand identity designers, will spend so much time like out on other clients' work that they're never spending a lot of time on their own
stuff. Yeah.
So when I was kind of building Made by James and building Baby Giant, especially Made by James, I would say, I invested a huge amount of time and effort into making sure that my brand visually was constantly evolving, whether that be through assets, whether that be through more logos, typography marks. I was constantly building to a place now where I've probably got close to 100 or 200 mini illustrative elements that I can use at any particular time. So whenever I am doing anything, like creating a workshop or my website or some posts on social media, I get to pick and choose these assets willy-nilly. Do you know what I mean? But what that also does is my clients look at me and they go, I love that guy. I love the brand he's built, the system he's built. I bet he can do it for me. If I just had a logo and I just sat there talking about design, I wouldn't get the budgets that I'm working with now. I know that for a fact because people come to me and they go, we don't want what Baby Giant is and we don't want what Made by James is, but you clearly understand how to build a brand, build assets, build a voice, build a message. Can you do that for us? So the ability to invest in your own brand is your best ever project, is what I would say. Because that, Made by James as a brand and Baby Giant as a brand has made me more money than any of my work that I put out there for like other clients.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, Lincoln kills this, and I see how you are killing this. Like, they're really cool. It's like, wow. But I'm seeing this all over the place. So, I mean, your merch library just has to start growing, dude. So we can start
do you know what?
Getting the merch out from you all over the world.
The problem is, I'm in this wanky little country called the UK. And we had this other wanky little thing called Brexit. Which means that, like, to send a fucking T-shirt, it costs more to send the T-shirt than it does to make the T-shirt and print the T-shirt. Do you know what I mean? So I need to find myself, a middleman in America, or crew. I've got a few people lined up who do it. It's just, but again, it's another. There's only one of me, and I've got a lot of shit that I want to do.
There's only one of you.
I'm very big on.
Well, let's talk about that. Yeah. Hey, okay, I read your schedule in your book, and now that was a few years ago. What is your daily 14-hour schedule look like? Because you're obviously spending time on your brand, which is important, and it just proves the value of that. How do you fit it all in? What's your schedule like, man?
Yeah, I mean the reason it's 14 hours at the moment is because of how I'm trying to balance both. Ultimately, client work, and
which is important.
So I've got my client work, which is priority ultimately, but I've also got this Made by James brand, which is doing something, and I'd be silly to ignore it. So I'm spending a lot of time and effort working on that. So into the office at 8. So between 8 and 2. Obviously, I do have some lunch in between there at some stage and a coffee. But that's fully focused, my most important project of the day. So it's usually logo work, building out a brand identity, sketching, but whatever part of the process I'm in with that particular client that I've gone on at that time, that 6-hour slot, what was it, 4, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 1, 2, 6-hour slot or whatever it is focused purely on client work. Like sometimes I'll finish at like 12, like focus wise, like I am hyper focused in the morning. That is my dream space. I turn off. No, I don't have any email. I don't have any phones binging. I am literally in my office and I am focused, fully focused on creating like that work. And that could be for 4 hours. That could be for 6 hours, depending on what flow I'm in. But sometimes at about the 4-hour mark, you're kind of like, do you know what? I'm getting a little bit. Now, there's nobody who works 100% 8 hours, 10 hours a day.
Correct.
So I focus all of my energy in the morning. That's all done, all my client work. So once I've done there, so about between 2 and 4, like I don't book any client calls in before 3 p.m. If a client wants to chat with me, it happens after 3 p.m. So all of my, that's why, so I don't get interrupted.
The rhythm. That's great.
I don't get interrupted by any clients during my very effective period in the morning. So work then. So as from like 2, 3, 4, I'm into kind of content creation, social media, client calls, and those usually kind of go on to about 6 o'clock. But now I've started coaching. So I have coaching slots from, basically from 6 till 7, then 7:15 till 8:15, and then sometimes I'll have a podcast or whatever. Like this week, I've been speaking to another. The problem is a lot of people and my friends and the people I work with are in the States. So I'm not working on America time. I'm not working on England time. I'm working on America time. So by the time, if I'm working with somebody who's like 5 hours behind me, so 10 o'clock for me is their end of day. Do you know what I mean? So it's kind of just making sure. And like, you got to remember that this isn't all in office. Do you know what I mean? This isn't all in front of my computer, because when I finish, I then am back in the house and I'm probably planning, writing, reading, doing something. So I don't see, like, there's this big chat around, and we kind of mentioned it a little bit earlier about this whole balancing. I truly don't believe if you ever want to be exceptional at anything, you can have balance. I don't think it's possible, because all the great things happen at extremes
and scary.
So if you want, and I think, but this is like, I'm very good at resting. So when I am on the weekend or I am on holiday, I don't work. It's purely off. If I'm going on a walk, I won't take my phone.
You shut it
down. So when I'm turned off, and when I'm working, I'm fully working. The problem is people cloud the two, which is why they don't ever rest, and that's why they can't find the balance. So I think there's a book called I can't remember what it was called, but it's called The One Thing. It talks about counterbalance. So at the moment, like, I'm in a really like sweet place where I'm like fully in work. Like I am all in over here for a lot of hours every single day. And then once I've stopped that, like on the weekends, I'm over here. I'm never like working and then going for a walk,
never mixing
and
the two.
then having a coffee and having lunch on the deck. Like I'll work fucking hard.
It's like taking those little breaks.
Yeah,
and such.
exactly.
Yeah.
Like, I'll just kind of bum around for a little bit. Like some people, like, I'll coach a lot of people.
I need some time.
Yeah, but it's the fact, like, I'll talk to them and they'll go, so, like, I'll say, like, how long does stuff take you? And they'll go, 3 to 5 weeks. I said, that is not an answer. Like, give me in hours how many hours you spent on this. And they can't answer it. How many hours do you work a day?
Yep.
Oh, I work all day.
You're
so
right.
tell me what you did yesterday. Well, I got up at 8, had my coffee, did my exercise, got into the office at like 10. Then I did work for a couple of hours. Then I did this. And I saw, like, you actually worked like 4 hours yesterday. And then like,
right.
Yeah. So like, no wonder you're not fucking getting anything done. So this is like the thing, like, I'm always kind of like, when I'm working, like nothing, there's no distraction, there's no nothing. I'm fully in it. But like I said, like,
Wow.
This is what's really important. Sorry to kind of, I'm just going to get this out, but this is my dream, my mission, my purpose. Like, I don't have to do these things, but I really want to. And some people here might go, that's too much. You're working too hard. You're doing this. You're doing that. But for me, it's not. And I think that's what the way I go about my life and my mission and my path is very different from yours and somebody else's down the road.
Yeah.
You don't have to be the same, but what you've got to do is this is what I'm very, very, very big on is I stay in my own lane. Like, I know exactly who I want to be. I know exactly what I want to do. I know exactly how I need to get there, but it's not going to happen without effort. Do you know what I mean? The things that I want are not going to happen with me doing 3, 4, even 8-hour days. They're just not going to happen because I need more time. I have too many clients and too many big dreams. So.
Yeah.
And people don't get that. I mean, again, they assume that you get to a certain level and you can just stop working and it all magically happens and you walk in.
I work harder now.
Work 2 hours and walk out and you're a hero. Yes. And that's what I mean. This industry, one thing we profess everybody is don't be fooled. I mean, if you want to make it in this space, you've got to work your ass off. You got to be prepared to take all the shit jobs at the beginning. You got to be prepared to say yes to everything before you can say no. I think that was actually from your book.
Yeah.
You've got to be willing to get to that point where you then not stop working, but you can start picking and choosing what you're working on. Yeah. You're still putting in crazy hours. I mean, this week, holy shit, for the first time in a long time, I was like getting all anxious. I was like, wow, I've got too much on my plate right now and I got to get through this. And it's been a long time, but it's true. It's if you get soft, you get complacent. Once you get complacent, you lose your curiosity. You don't want to try too hard anymore. And then you know what? That's it. You're looking down the path at the end of your career.
Yeah.
Cruise control kind of.
Yeah,
that's the worst thing designers can do.
It is a slippery slope. Like hard work has to be built into it has to become habitual. Do you know what I mean? It's like there are days where I do not want to go to work. There are days when it's beautiful and sunny outside, and I can see my wife walking the baby around the garden. Do you know what I mean? I know a lot of people go out and walk the baby around the garden. I'm like, to become the person that I want to see my baby, I want my baby to look up to me and be proud of me, and I need to put in these hours here to make that happen. Everything that he ever wants, I will be able to give him if I put the effort in. If if I'm invited down the pub, this is the thing: is what is your priority? Is your priority to go out, have fun? Have long weekends, have lots of holidays, work enough to be able to pay for that. That's fine. Like I said, I don't have a problem with that. I think I know a lot of friends who do that. They basically live or work to live. Do you know what I mean? They work enough and then they'll go off on holiday and they'll work enough and they'll go off on holiday. And that's great. And do you know what? That works for them. That doesn't work for me. And this is why I don't like it when we're not all in this same pot. We don't all have we're not wired the same. We don't all have the same purpose. We don't all have the same mission. And which is why when people often do say to me is why are you working so late? Or what are you doing? Or why don't you just take some more time off? I'm like, fuck off. I've got shit to do. Do you know what I mean? You're just a distraction right now because I'm living my very, very, very best life right now. And I am not going to let anything get in the way of that. But this is what some people do is they'll hear opinions, they'll hear things online and they'll think, well, maybe I need to find balance or maybe I need to take more time off, which is probably right. Maybe I should take a bit more time off, but I don't feel like I do need to be
a little overrated at times.
Yeah, I think so.
People can't relate. They can't relate to this. I mean, I've got friends who are, they're working in finance, they're miserable. Some other ones, they work on cars, they're miserable, right? The ones that are doing something that they actually love, they feel the exact same way. But it's these other guys who are like, they'll crank it out and they'll be bitches for, 5-6 hours a day just so they can go on the weekend, like you said, work to live. They go on vacations, they go on this. Dude, if I was to go to a resort for a week, and I would go nuts. I would lose my fucking mind. I don't want to be served by people. I don't want to. I appreciate the beach, and I'm like, okay, give me a computer now. Oh, I think I got an idea for something. I've got inspiration.
Yeah.
It'd drive me nuts.
Yeah, it's not for me either, mate.
So everything looks great on the outside, of course, right? Especially on Instagram. And again, we see this with everybody, but we're talking. So, what are some of the struggles that maybe you're still dealing with all this? We've got the hours and you appreciate working the hours, right? But you are spread thin because you're doing social, you're doing your client work, which is equally important, more in some cases. And of course, you've now got a child, your wife, your relationship, which I know is just unquestionably, the most important. It's all for them in the end, almost. So struggles. What are the real struggles then that all this celebrity shit doesn't tell people?
I'm never going to. I'm in a very fortunate position. So I would never kind of worry about where I am. But I think there are things. The biggest thing for me is, I can only talk personally.
Of course.
The problem.
And that's all we are asking about.
Yeah, the problem with opportunity is that something has to be sacrificed. Sacrifice is such an underrated word within the entrepreneur's life or his world or whatever. I have to sacrifice some things that are really, really, really important to me to be able to do the things that I'm doing. I sometimes, I don't need to be working today. I could have taken the day off and spent the whole day with my baby boy and my mum, his mum. But I choose to sacrifice those moments to be able to do the other things that I need to do, which are also really, really important. So, sacrifice is a big thing because sometimes you do question whether it's right. I'm putting, if you think about this right now, the things that I'm sacrificing, my baby, my wife, for things like building a course to help other creatives, to things like planning an America tour to help other creatives. Am I helping the right people? Am I with the right people? These are things that constantly go around in my head, am I sacrificing time with this for that? But you have to, and you have to be okay with that. So sacrifices is a bit of a struggle. Loneliness. You think about sitting in your office all day, predominantly by yourself. I might have close to 400,000 people following me and an audience and all these people, but I do all of that by myself. I do all of that content by myself. Those are all my ideas. Those are all of my pieces of James out in the world. That can be quite a lonely thing to bear on your shoulders. Gotta keep going. Self-motivation, that's another big one. Like we kind of breached upon a little bit earlier on. It's some days I just can't be fucked. But I know I still have to get up and I still have to do it and I still have to create this for them and I still have to push that out there because I have to. Well, do I have to? No, I don't. But I know to become the person that I want to become, I do. I think sacrifice is something that I struggle with, knowing what to sacrifice. Like I said, I've got a very clear plan of where I'm going to be in the future. I don't put too many kind of goalposts but I know if I do the things that I'm supposed to do and I work hard, they will naturally happen. You have to kind of manifest some of it. You have to push towards a certain direction, but I know that they're happening because they are happening right now. Everything that I have planned is already happening. So I know with the right mindset, I can make them happen. And like I said, the loneliness and the kind of self-motivation is, quite a struggle because there's not a big team here. There's not like me and then 50 other people churning content, replying to messages, doing all my emails, writing my content, copywriting, doing all this kind of shit. It's all me. Do you know what I mean? So, I think it can be quite a lot sometimes, but this is why good routines and good habits. I don't drink. I don't do any drugs anymore. Do you know what I mean? I sleep much better. I'm super driven. You know, I know that I had to, like, I basically wrote that book drunk. You know, I was in a really, really bad space. It was COVID, writing it during COVID. It was drinking like all day. Do you know what I mean? Passing out at 4 o'clock. It was an absolute mess at that point. And it got to a point where my wife said, look, I'm scared. Do you know what I mean? And that was the day I stopped. Do you know what I mean? So, you know, I think, and I knew, like, that was the world and my wife telling me, like, if you want to become, like, that was James version 2, you know. James version 1 was the scared, kind of abused, drugging. Do you know what I mean? You know, that was James version 1. Yep. Version 2 was the drunk guy who started building an audience and started finding his way, but was still out of control. Version 3 is sober James, who knows exactly what the fuck he's doing all the time. So, you know, and I know, like, this James is going to get me to where I want to be. And there'll be another version, no doubt. But I can't do the things I want to do without being safe up here.
Yeah, clean.
Yeah.
So interestingly enough, and I was telling Sean had no idea, but one of the first times I spoke to you was over one of your reels, and it was the one where you were spitting out your coffee over ridiculous things customers tell us, right? And my comment to you was like, wow, James, I think you have a drinking problem, because every time you took a sip, it would spit out. But your reply was completely the opposite, you know, quite the opposite. I'm free and clear now for like 6. So that was amazing. And I was like, that was the moment when I was like, I got to talk to this dude because he's real. Yeah. So, I mean, we talk about how this industry with the stresses, you know, with, you know, always kind of riding that line on mental illness and just, you know, coping with just keeping yourself mentally checked in. Do you think addictions are and just, you know, very poor coping methods are a thing that obviously you have been able to kick that, but you went through it. And I mean, we joke about it, but I do know sometimes after a long day, I do hit that drink, you know, one, you know, maybe 2 tops, right? You know, maybe going to bender in the weekend, but it feels like you're almost always riding that line and you hit that line. Do you think this is something?
I think it's firstly different for different people. Like addiction.
Fair.
Addiction is very, like uncontrollable to the point of you don't even notice it. But I think, like, you know, I mean, the problem is now I'm addicted to work, which is I suppose it's not going to kill me as much. But
that's another addiction.
Yeah, I'm now addicted to other things.
Personality,
I think
continues.
Yeah, but I think
exactly. You'll never not lose that.
Exactly. Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, I think as an industry, I think we might struggle, especially like the creative person, the creative mindset. We are generally slightly more rebellious and free-spirited than many other people. That's not to say that, you know, we have a drinking problem compared to other people's, but you know, it is quite a rock star lifestyle. Do you know what I mean? I think it's
absolutely.
I believe that our hours that we work and the way that we work don't, you know, we're always online, we are always in front of our computers, so, and we put a lot of effort into that. So when we're not in front of that, we go batshit crazy. And whether that's switching off through alcohol, through drugs, through partying too much, I think it can get to a point where it's catching up with you. But, you know, I think, you know, mindset-wise, I don't really know. It's a tough question to answer. I think because I can only speak through addiction through my own eyes and my own lens. So I don't think it's something you can generally generalize about. But because it's always like some form of addiction is usually from trauma. It's usually a safety net. Like the reason I drank and the reason I did loads of drugs and the reason that I did all those things was because I was trying to forget something that really fucking hurt me, and I wanted to forget. Do you know what I mean? I didn't really I didn't want to be that. Do you know what I mean? So I was doing everything I could possibly do to forget that. But then it stops you from dealing with it, and you become an alcoholic and a druggie at the age of still mid-30s, you know, still drinking loads when I was 36. What was it, almost 2 years now? So, 37. So, you know, and, you know, I think it's very self-sabotaging. Do you know what I mean? I'm 2 years clean now. I'll never go back.
Good.
Because I've seen, like, the difference. I was like this before. Like,
yes,
happy, angry, happy, sad, happy, angry, sad.
Yeah.
No, like now, I am smooth as butter.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean?
Even Steven.
Yeah, and even when I even think about like how I react to client feedback, how I react to stuff that's said about me online. You know, it's all done with a much cleaner, more forgiving, kinder lens, because I know that I'm doing everything I want to do in my life, and I'm really, really, truly happy for the first time. And the reason somebody else is saying those nasty things to me is because they're not happy. And that's what I see. I don't try, like the old James would have been like, smasher.
Yeah, all over
really use some sort of witty Englishness to really put you down and make you look like a wanker. But now I try and kill people with kindness. I just say, I don't agree, but thank you. Or, you know, I hope you're having a good day. Or, you know, there's some horrible stuff that is said online. But like I said, I think like I'm happy. And there's like some Insta-twat or some random I don't know is not going to stop me from being happy. Do you know what I mean? So
it's not going to.
I think it's an interesting thing, like the mindset, because I think if you can control your mindset, you can become anything. You could be the best designer on the planet, but with the wrong mindset, you're fucked. Do you know what I mean? So you're going to do all right, but you're not going to fulfill your potential, I don't think.
Right. So with this new mindset, with the new attitude and everything else, do you feel like you ever have moments where you feel like you've almost got imposter syndrome and you're like, how could this all be happening? Everything seems so good. I don't feel like I deserve. Do you ever feel this way?
No, I think like you both, I've got a few more grays in my beard now. So, you know, I know, I know I've worked really fucking hard to get to where I am. And I was saying, me and my wife were having this conversation the other day, and like, there's some I'm working with some of the biggest people I've ever worked with. I've got some of the best opportunities I've ever had coming up. And my wife was like, we were talking about it. She's like, you don't, it's not that I don't celebrate them. I'm really proud of myself, but I get really proud of myself now, which I never did before.
Good.
But
Good for you, man.
For me,
you deserve it.
You earned it.
Thank you. Yeah, but for me, it's kind of like I know, I don't want to get too fucking spiritual here, but I know that these things are meant to happen.
No,
to
dude.
me. You know, I know that everything that I am doing is like it's not that it's predetermined, but I know that if I keep working hard, things will happen. It's like if you train hard, you know, if you think about all these sportsmen or whatever, the best football players in the world, they don't just turn up and get good. You know, some like have a bit of natural talent, but they like the best players on the planet. They are the ones who get there before everybody else, finish after everybody else. And they show up when everybody else doesn't show up. And I know that if I am that person in my industry, things will happen for me. And that's what I try to be. I don't try and be the best. I just try and work the hardest. And because then if I work hard, I know
that's brilliant.
That everything else will kind of
get better.
happen. Yeah, exactly. So I think if you should just... I've got this like... It's engraved on my ring. I've got my little Made by James signet here. And like on the inside of it, it's just written like effort is free. And that's something that kind of drives me every single day. It's like,
Shit, that's really
I
good.
am the only person that can stop me from becoming whatever I want to become.
True that. Testify.
That's awesome.
That's
Jeez.
good.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, really, how do you follow up with anything
Reverend
like that?
James, what else do you have for us?
Reverend James, I love it.
Reverend J.
The School of Design.
Love that.
So, okay, so you've been, the past 5 years, 6 years have just been literally far left, far right. I didn't know this was really revealing about you wrote your book. And you pretty much were drunk throughout the whole thing, which, again, still a great book. It's very deep. It's very, you put it all out there. Like, I mean, authenticity is something that, you speak of, right? Your principles, you govern yourself. Consistency, honesty, authenticity, vulnerability. What was that experience then, putting that all out there in your book? Or were you still in that process of self-discovery?
Yeah, I mean, I've openly talked about the stuff that I've gone through, like the abuse and the drugs and the alcohol. I've tried to bring that out online a lot, and I think that was a big reason why the publishers reached out to me in the first place, was because they saw a story and they saw an interesting story, which obviously luckily aligned with some good work and all the rest of it. So, yeah, I mean, I think, like I said, like COVID, like they reached out to me basically just as COVID was being talked about, about a year, like 6 months before that, and then we went into lockdown, and obviously books were like at the peak they've ever been during COVID, because people were reading more and self-discovery. So they were like, we'd love you to do a book, please do a book, blah blah blah. We went through that whole process, got it signed off and all the rest of it. But now you talk about, like, because it was COVID times, and because I worked from home, because I was an addict, I believe I was a bit of an alcoholic. I would drink to get drunk. I wouldn't drink socially. I drink to pass out. So I remember going through the book, and I think possibly it got the catalyst for me pushing that so much is probably the stuff that I was writing about in the book. I was opening a lot of darker portals and boxes that I had maybe closed off somewhat. And when you're writing them and then you realize they're going to be out in the world forever within a book. I mean, I've done it on social media, but within your book, I was like, is this the right thing to do? And I've always believed, like, I've always got to be vulnerable. I've always got to be honest. I've always got to be my authentic self. And that is a part of my story. So I think maybe, like I said, like going through COVID, the drinking issue, which I think a lot of people probably grew for a lot of people during COVID, couldn't go out. You just might as well get drunk all the time. So, especially in England, we've got, it's a bit different from America. Not saying that we're any worse. We are. I mean, we're known around the world. We're fucking binge drinkers. Do you know what I mean? We work during the week and get fucking hammered. Do you know what I mean? We don't socialize. We get battered and we have fights. That's what we do. It was basically just it's just kind of the culture side of it as well, like the pub culture. We grew up in pubs, and all the rest of it. So, I don't know what the question was actually. I kind of just kind of thinking about drinking again. There's something about
and how ridiculous it was.
Yeah, the book idea. Yeah, so that kind of it kind of happened maybe.
It brought a lot out for you.
Yeah, it brought a lot out. Kind of happened. It happened. I say it's not. I'm never going to say it happened at the wrong time, because it happened at the time it was exactly supposed to happen. And I loved it. I really enjoyed writing a book. I would never do another one. For a couple of reasons. I think there's better ways to communicate to people nowadays. I think the book is out in the world, and it's a wonderful thing.
Tells your story.
Yeah, it tells my story. It's a bit different from another design book. It's not just talking about just the work that I do. It's about lots of little bits in there, lots of golden nuggets, and stuff about me.
Oh, it's fantastic, dude.
Yeah, it tells my story and stuff. But I think there's better ways to.
Honestly, your book helped me clarify for Z Factor during a time when I needed it. It helped clarify a lot of things. And it's just a lot of your your little knowledge, your little wisdoms. It's like, how does this guy like have all these great tidbits of advice? And literally, you're still too young to have that. Yeah. You know, you should be twice your age to put some of the stuff you have in there. I loved it. Like, I mean, I got all these notes written down with some of these as reminders. So good on you.
I appreciate that.
I understand about maybe not doing the second book. You put out so much awesome content. I mean, your newsletter I always look forward to it. The information I get. I mean, that's where I learned about the change of your career, the next step in your life, which is commendable, which again, kind of feels like we're in similar missions, for helping. And I think the one quote I love, I didn't share this one with you, but it's like, you're helping other brand identity designers live their best logo life. And if you embrace that, like, it's just so powerful because it goes deeper than just about clocking in, clocking out, as does your book. Yes. So, I mean, in one way, a little disappointed there might not be a second book, but in other ways, I respect the book that much more for that, right?
Yeah, I think, I mean,
like focus, James.
Sorry.
A focused James writing a book would be awesome.
Yeah. Maybe it might not be a design book. Do you know what I mean? Do you know what I mean? It's just such a massive task. You're working with a lot of people. You're working with a lot of publishers, editors, copywriters. For me, it was like we kind of went to and fro 100 times. I was like, this doesn't sound like me. I'm an English guy, and you're trying to write it in American.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? This needs to retain my voice, otherwise my story's not going to come across. And they were very good, after when we got through it, that it was kept. But the book itself is, like I said, it's a bucket list thing. It's a beautiful thing that I've done. I'm very, very proud of it. It's done wonderfully. It's got great reviews. So like I said, I'm really proud of it, but I just think there's better ways to tell my story and to give more and to offer more. And I've always said never say never, but I think with a book, I would say never, because the publishers are the people that win the most. Do you know what I mean?
Fair.
And
that literally goes against everything else that you're trying to do.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think I wouldn't have been able to have. Well, I say I wouldn't have been able to. I could have self-published, but I'm really glad it happened. Mm-hmm. I'm really glad.
Yes.
It's what it is, and it's out there, and it's there for everybody. And it's going to be something that I can share with my little boy when he's old enough to read, which is wonderful.
Yeah, that's pretty damn cool.
But like for me, it's just not, unless they change. I mean, unless I self-publish. The only way I would do it is if I self-published or a publisher came to me with a much better deal, because you don't get a great deal. I negotiated a better one.
Yeah, fair enough.
It's still not great. So for me, it's not. The only people winning here are you. My story, my creation. Yeah. I designed it. I wrote it. You print it and make most of the money.
Put in the work.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But that's how
think of it
work.
as it's your legacy.
Yeah,
it's your legacy, and it's just unreal. And like you said, when your little guy's older, he's gonna have that, man, and he's gonna share it with his kids, your grandkids. That's gonna keep you around forever.
Yeah, it's not going anywhere. That's the beauty of it.
No, God, no, right?
True. Yeah.
It's like it's good. Yeah. What do you think design holds for us all then in the near future? So, you think print's going anywhere? Do you think AI is going to take over and we're all going to be screwed?
Yeah,
I mean, there's a lot of hot topics that people are a little worried about right now.
There is a lot of hot topics, but again, I always go back to the thing. I think people just need to focus on themselves more rather than what's going on around. I think it's important to AI is only going to be as good as the people who are putting their information into it. They need creative people. I think there is still a place for print. Mm-hmm. I think great print still does a wonderful job. People said that Fiverr was going to kill logo design. People thought Squarespace would kill web design.
I remember that.
Like AI or apps or things that help us do stuff have been around for decades, ultimately, So I still think that people should just really focus on. I'll tell you one thing I think is more important than ever is being yourself, being human, being authentically you.
Authenticity.
Because that cannot be put into a
That's
computer
unique.
or anything, So
Yeah, that's right.
that being true to yourself is the one thing. I mean, if anybody takes anything away from this chat, it should be the fact that, I think the chances of you being here are 400 billion to 1 or something like that, So the fact that you're here means you're here for a reason, and the fact that you are the only you. You're the only person who thinks like you, has the same taste, has the same, we all have different things, lots of different things that make us the person that we are. But the problem is people are so scared of being that person because they're scared what Barry or Tina will think of them. So forget about Barry and Tina and fuck shit up is what I would say. And be yourself.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Amazing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Dude, I mean, again, I think we almost have to end it there because this is perfect. I can talk to you all day.
Yeah. Well, we can do a round
absolutely.
two.
Would I want to be respectful to you? Hell yeah! This is the most perfect. I think this is the best high of the whole conversation. We still have one more small part that we're going to keep you for, but that's amazing, dude.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Look, we're going to finish this off a little fun, okay? Because again, I do want you to get home to your babe, to your wife, right? It's still pretty. It's getting late over there.
Yeah.
But we're going to do a 60-second. Actually, we'll do 120-second, a 2-minute fire round of quick answer questions. Yeah.
Okay.
All
I
right.
haven't looked at any of these.
You've got 2 minutes.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay,
Nope,
good.
nope, you're all. Yeah.
I was like, I sent him the wrong list. I was like, oh shit! Don't look at it. Don't look at the first email. Well, like such a noob.
Do you know what? I only saw your second email, so I haven't even opened your first email.
Okay, good.
On purpose. Yeah.
So that means all caps works in email subject lines, everybody.
Yeah, it does.
All
It
caps.
grabbed my attention.
Desperation. All right, we've got 120, 2 minutes, quick fire round. A lot of these are easy. A lot of them might be a little more fun. All right.
Okay.
Ready?
Yeah.
Hold on.
So what am I doing? Just answering the question.
Yep.
You're just going to answer these
Quick as
questions,
possible.
all right? As quick as possible.
Yeah.
All right, ready? 3, 2, 1. Mac or PC?
Mac.
Favorite music?
Eclectic mix.
Oh.
Favorite color?
I don't have a favorite. I like all sorts of shit.
Oh.
Favorite cartoon?
Thundercats.
Oh! Favorite collectible?
Art.
Favorite superhero?
Wonder Woman.
Now, who's Marty McFly?
Back to the Future.
Oh, good man. What's Quark Express?
Oh, fucking hell. It's all that shit that I used to use when I first started designing agencies. That's what that shit is. When
Do you
I
remember
was
what was
using
before
Flash
Quark
to
Express?
animate and Dreamweaver.
Yes, we read that in Dreamweaver.
Yeah.
All right, coffee or tea?
Coffee all day.
Puppies or kittens?
Puppies. I got a dog.
Yeah.
Pirates or ninjas?
Pirates. I mean, I got a fucking gold
Favorite-
tooth. Come on.
Oh yeah. That's
Arr,
badass.
matey. Favorite graphic designer, past or present?
I will go back to my group of designers at Lincoln Design Co. because I've mentioned them. Those are big inspiration for me.
Very cool. Favorite artist ever?
Big fan of Roy Lichtenstein, pop art.
Ooh, nice.
Wow.
Yep.
That kind of got me
Serif
into
or non-serif?
non-serif.
What's your favorite font right now?
Made by James Chunky.
That is brilliant.
I
love
That's
it.
brilliant. Magazine or tablet?
Definitely magazine. I much prefer to read. I still read books and magazines rather than offer tablet.
Awesome.
Good man. Newsprint is dead. True or false?
Do you want my personal point of view or what I actually think? I mean, I don't think it is. I think it will always be around.
Cool. What's your guilty pleasure?
Well, fucking used to be sweets and chocolate. Used to be ice cream, but I can't have fucking sugar anymore. Bloody wanky decision that was. But, do you know what? Do you know what guilty? Do you know what my guilt? I'll tell you. It's probably an afternoon nap on a Sunday on my hammock. That is my pleasure.
That's good. Oh, and a hammock.
Yeah, I
even.
love it. About between 2
Superpower
and 4.
of choice.
That's the napping hour.
Yeah, superpower of choice. I'd love to fly.
That'd be freaking cool.
Nice.
Who'd win in a fight? The Rolling Stones or the Beatles?
Do I have to answer that? Definitely the Rolling Stones.
Oh, okay.
They would get down and dirty, wouldn't they?
Oh, yeah.
more.
Those pansies, the Beatles, wouldn't do anything.
I agree with you so much.
Wow.
Sorry, boy.
Okay, jeez.
Best video game console ever?
N64.
Nice. And last but not least, one thing that always makes you angry.
Quite chill now, so... Oh, this is a tough one.
That's why we end on it.
Yeah. Sugar.
Yeah, I don't actually. I'm just trying to. I don't want to make it like a wanky answer. So, what makes me angry? When people. There you go. People make me angry.
Yes. Oh,
Yeah, I was going to leave it there. I could have gone into detail, but it's definitely people. Definitely.
Just leave it at that.
yes. Perfect.
Oh God! Oh James, man, this went exactly as I hoped.
Yes.
You are exactly
Good.
who I thought you would be.
Yes.
Like this
Authentic.
was amazing,
Love that.
man. Thank you so much. You have justified the person in that book, and you've just brought a whole real life component to this. You've just outdone your book now. So thank you for accepting.
Oh, I
this. This is
appreciate it. And like I said, I'm
amazing.
happy. Happy to do a round 2 at some stage if you want to. So,
Oh, hell yeah.
Yep.
But for anybody who is listening and who has not picked up the book yet, the book is made by James. And again, it's everything that we've talked about and so much more. There is so much valuable information here, for designers, for businesses, for business owners, and even just for people in general. The story's fucking good, and the person is even better. So one day I'm going to get you to sign this badass book, okay? I'm telling you, I'm going to make it happen, even if I have to come out and see you in the UK.
I'll make it happen, mate.
All right, this is
Don't
fucking
worry.
amazing.
If you email me your addresses, I'll just send you a signed one.
Might even take you up on that one too.
Oh, dude. That's awesome.
Right?
Yeah, send me your addresses.
All right.
Send me your addresses.
After this.
Yeah.
So again, anybody who hasn't checked out James's Instagram, find him on Instagram. We've got some great little videos on YouTube. Of course, your Instagram stuff is it's hilarious. It keeps me in check. I'm laughing my ass off. Even here at the office, everybody just loves to see what the hell you're going to come up with next. Your personality is so damn big.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yes.
And and then again, James, you're giving out so much free information on your newsletter, which I actually find more valuable than your Instagram feed. So thank you for that as well. So everybody, check him out. By all means, you know where to find us as you need us. I guess, with that being said,
Thank you so much, James.
my name's Massimo,
And my name's Sean.
Thank you.
and you are.
And my name's James. Made by James.
Yeah, that's it.
Stay creative.
Stay angry.
Peace.